Unspoiled Network podcast.
This is Unspoiled, covering the Hunger Games trilogy, Book 1, The Hunger Games, chapters 13, 14, and 15. In these chapters, Katniss suffers some pretty terrible burns, but she's got some pretty dope sponsors. And also, we spend some more time with Rue. Welcome to Unspoiled.
Are you coming to the tree? They strung up a man, they say, who murdered 3. Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you coming to the tree where dead man called out for his love to flee? Strange things did happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree. Are you?
Welcome to the show, everyone. I am Natasha.
I'm RoShawn.
Okie dokie. So, these 3 chapters are a lot of like downtime, weirdly, after we deal with the fire situation.
Mm-hmm.
What did you feel about the vibe of the games at this point?
So I want to say really quickly before we get into the chapters, I just wanted to thank everyone again. Those who were kind enough to share a little something with me. People donated, and I just wanted to thank everybody for that and just tell you how incredibly helpful it has been as we go through whatever the hell I'm going through with Stephen and his medical adventures as of late, as we continue to navigate that.
Wow, that's
trying to
a
put a
euphemism
positive
and a half.
spin on it. I just want to thank everybody again. It's always a weird thing to need help. It's always an even weirder thing to ask for it. And then the weirdest of it all is when you actually get it. So just thank you to everyone, and it's just really appreciated.
And anybody who doesn't know what RoShawn's referring to, I posted on the Facebook page that the PayPal
Patreon
and Venmo and Cash App on you're right, I said Facebook because they have owned my brain for the last 6 years. But yeah, I posted it to Patreon, and because GoFundMe is just, they take a percentage and it's like a sizable chunk. So we decided that it would just be easier to send directly via whatever method you find easiest. And if you're interested, that post is still up on patreon.com/unspoiled with all of the usernames that RoShawn uses on each of those, so that you can send something if you feel so inclined.
And if you can't, that is okay too.
Absolutely.
It is not that kind of, you guys know. But thank you to everyone who gave what they could, and it made a world of difference and continues to make a difference as I try to manage all the things that are up in the air that I have to be responsible for. And to the book, what was the question? What do I think of the tone of the games?
What do you think of the vibe right now? Yeah.
I think that these are like truly, truly psychotic people in charge. Is what I think. And you can take that statement and apply it to a myriad of things if you are feeling so inclined. That there are absolutely monstrous people in charge of our lives, and that this wall of fire that is raining down is just to jazz up the games is bonkers. It's like we had talked about, like, because the last chapter ends with like, a wall of fire raining down on her. So we had like a little bit of conversation about like, what do we think it is? And it was, I don't want to say I knew it was the game makers, but we had talked about that as a possibility. So it wasn't necessarily that I was shocked that it turned out to be them, but I was definitely horrified that it turned out to be them. It just fucking yeah.
Yeah. And there's a point at which Katniss is like, oh, the girl who was on fire. I bet they're fucking cackling about that little fucking joke right now. And I was like, man, imagining like I'm running for my life, getting horrible burns, and that people are just going, good one.
Right. Like, you know, there's a thing where she's like, when she has that thought, she thinks about Senna, and then she's like, well, there's no way he could have known, right? Like he wasn't, this wasn't part of the deal. But your brain does start to, you know, think of all the people who are sort of complicit in this fucking nightmare that you're living. Yep. And, you know, every time I start to think that this is almost cartoonish, I get reminded of how close to reality it actually is. Yes, it's an extreme, right? But we had a whole show that was like number one, where we just like dared people to eat bugs and you know, various penis from animals, you know, like cow dick and bull dick, and you know, here's a horse dick, and like we that was a thing we all participated in.
Wildly popular.
You know, just like I don't know, y'all. It's a damning indictment.
There was something, well, you know what? I'm not even going to talk about that. Never mind.
Yeah.
I was about to bring up some depressing shit. You know what? We've got enough. We're good. So, starting in chapter 13, the Wall of Fire, she is belted into place. So she wants to just bolt, but she can't because she's belted into place. So that's super.
Yep.
She manages to like just grab everything and sprint.
We are so lucky that a lot of her shit was already stashed in her book bag, because like there's no time to pack up camp when there's a wall of fire being directed to you on purpose. It's so funny too, like the whole like stampede of feet that she hears, and I'm just trying to figure out like who could it be. It's bitch, it's the forest, it's everybody. That's who it could be.
Yes, it is a real like I'm just the fact that they can do this. I often have to stop and think about what the arena, like how it's equipped for this to be possible, and just the extent of control is so horrific. Like
I love too that as all this is happening, right? And especially after she gets a little bit of a chance to breathe and she's starting to like, because what I have to be reminded of, and I'm glad that it comes up in the way it does, it feels really organic, is that Katniss has grown up watching these games. So she has an idea of what kinds of things are possible, what the game makers will do, the lengths that they'll go to, the strategies that they will employ. So at one point she's like, oh, I get it. Like very early on, she gets it. One, it's getting a little boring. And two, everybody is scattered. And we need the people who are left to be like closer together so some action can happen, right? So they're just going to use this fire to corral them like cattle to where they want them to be in the game. And there's got to be other ways to accomplish this goal. But they needed to be done in such spectacular fashion that the corralling itself is entertaining. Because, you know,
that's exactly right. Yeah.
They could institute a whole bunch of like weirdo, you know, almost invisible electric fencing, right? To make it so that you could only go in certain directions. You try to go too far left, too far to the right, and you could nope, back on the trail. You know, but they don't do that. They're just like, nah, fire.
Yeah. You got to make it dangerous. You got to make them run. You've got to introduce an element of, well, this could kill you, or you could do what we want. Zapping, what's that? You just get a little zap and then you move on with your day. But this, you
what
could
fun is that to
literally
watch?
die. Exactly.
I mean, people, right? That's not going to keep people from changing the channel. That's the other thing too that's so wild to me. I thought about this on my own. I was just like, they need this to be really exciting for people to watch, but like, clearly it's not a ratings thing, because I get the feeling this is the only thing that's on TV at the time. So it's not like it's got to beat something else in its time slot.
I think that it's like compulsory viewing, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yeah. She says that like they barely even have electricity in her district, but they always make sure that when this shit is happening, all the TVs work. So the need for it to be the spectacle that they need it to be is not about a lot of the things that we have been told runs like our own in real life, like entertainment industrial complex, right? We tend to think of things as being, well, they need to make the most money, right? They need to beat the time slot. They got to be number one, whatever the thing is. But that all of that type of motivation is completely removed from this entertainment of the games. Right. This is just a power, flexing its power for the sake of, to remind the powerless that they are in fact powerless, and to give the people who have a proximity to great privilege sort of a reminder of how lucky they are. Right? This could have been you. Aren't you glad it's not you, though? Aren't you glad you're here in the Capitol with us? Because look how bad it is for everybody else. So even if you're in the Capitol, if you were to start to feel a way about how things work, like, what are you going to do? Revolt so you can end up in one of the districts? Fuck that. I'm not doing that. Yeah,
and there's also the element of like making these kids fight to the death so that you can then be like, look at what savages they are. You have made them, you have forced them into a situation where they have to fight to the death, but you can simultaneously point at them and be like, and this is also evidence of the fact that they are subhuman. I mean, the way that Katniss was talked about to her face, they clearly do not see her as a full person. And we're like, just talking about her being barbaric as they literally were prepping her to be sent to slaughter. Like, no awareness, none at all.
And it's like, it's why like dehumanization is always like the first step. Once you do that, you can fucking get away with doing practically anything. Once the people aren't even people anymore.
Yep.
They begin to occupy a category of less than, and then anything that happens to them is low key their own fault, because why wouldn't they just be more civilized? So this first chapter is just fucking nonstop. She is running. I'm out of breath, and all I'm doing is reading.
Right.
And she's got some really fucking close calls. Her whole jacket goes up in flames in the back at one point.
Yeah.
And we need this jacket because it gets really cold. We already learned that.
And like, there's smoke, so she's inhaling this, which if anybody has experienced this, it gets to you so fast. Like, there's a reason people talk about how it's not the fire, it's the smoke that kills you. Like, that shit will fuck you up so quick that you don't even realize you're going down as you pass out.
Terrified of not this type of situation, because God forbid this should never be a thing that happens to anybody anywhere, but just like fire in general. So I've never like had any kind of close calls with a serious fire, thank God. Because you're right, like it a lot of times it's the smoke that gets people before the fire ever does. And when she's running, so she's breathing really hard. These are big gulps of air she's taking in. And she starts to go down. And I know she's not dying. I know she's not dying.
Sure.
But it felt real close, y'all. It felt real close.
Yeah. So let's see. I know I need to keep moving, but I'm trembling and lightheaded now. I allow myself a spoonful of water to rinse my mouth and spit, then take a few swallows from my bottle. You get 1 minute, I tell myself. 1 minute to rest. And what I keep running up with her is like the discipline. Katniss just has some discipline to her that I do not have because I have never really needed to have it. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And
Real
I
talk.
cannot help but be extremely admiring of just being like a tablespoon of water to rinse my mouth, but she doesn't swallow it. She doesn't decide to just flatten out on the ground and go to sleep. Like, it's the same thing as when she puts the iodine tablets in the water and just waits. Like, how? That's always going to be what I go back to, guys, is that's the ultimate expression of discipline for me, is that she just waits for half an hour when the water's right there and she's literally on the verge of death. So the fire was just to get us moving. Now the audience will get to see some real fun. When I hear the next hiss, I flatten on the ground, not taking time to look. The fireball hits a tree off to my left, engulfing it in flames. To remain still is death. So now we've got fireballs.
They are aiming at her
explicitly.
Like, come on. What the fuck? I had to like go back and reread that because at first I was just like, oh, that's really unfortunate that she happened to be where it was. And then I was like, wait a minute. It wasn't unfortunate. Are they aiming at her? Oh my God, they're aiming at her. It was like, a play in 3 acts where at first I was just like, oh, that's a wild coincidence. That's really unfortunate. So like,
yeah, I think we could safely set aside coincidence as a concept.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Anything that's happening in like the environment.
And like because of the thing with the jacket, like her hands are all burned. She's got that really gnarly burn on her thigh, which turns out to be pretty nasty. And okay, I'm just gonna stop because it's I just can't, like, by the time she finds her way to the pool, right, she is really bad off. And she doesn't even realize she's found this like little pool of water.
Yeah.
And I would have just, I think, given up. I would have just put my head in that pool.
How many times have we said this already? Just like there comes a point where you just go, nah. No, I don't think so. And I would have passed that point so many times by now. Like, yup, same.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It's just like, it's sort of like what PETA, with him being like, I don't want them to change me. There's a point where it's like, I'm not going to fucking dance for you anymore. I'm not doing it. This is miserable. I know you're out here rubbing your fucking hands together, enjoying yourselves. Fuck you. No.
Yep.
And I just
I'm just going to die out of spite.
Exactly. On the spot.
So, yeah.
Like, does it... I have too much... I'm too contrary. Anyway.
So, yeah, so this is when she tries to wash up. She does the thing that you said earlier, which is like be very careful about how much water she's going to drink. And she is able to put her hands and her leg in this pool of water, and it kind of helps with the pain. But the minute she takes it out, it just starts hurting again. So she can't stay here forever, even though I kind of was like, maybe you should just chill here for a second.
Or you could just stay here forever. Yeah. Very, very much so. But yeah, and then this the fact again that she's like in this water and has to wait once again, for iodine to work.
Mm-hmm,
My
mm-hmm.
leg is in need of attention, but I still can't look at it. What if it's as bad as the man's and I can see my bone? And when she says the man's, she's thinking about the difference between her and Prim and the fact that, like, Prim could not kill an animal, but was able to help her mother with some pretty, like, grim
Excuse me. Yeah.
injuries that people got carried in with.
And Katniss couldn't. Like
Mm-hmm.
Katniss can be out in, in these streets taking care of animals, killing food and everything, and skinning rabbits. But when this man shows up at their house, who the doctors have been like, there's nothing you can do, he's going to die. And her mother and then Prim try to save him. And they end up not being successful, but they try. Katniss has to leave the room. Like she can't deal with that type of human injury.
Yep. And I think that I am the same way. I have often said that, like, despite how soft I am with my pets, that I think that I could, like, slaughter animals for food or kill animals hunting. I can't cope with the suffering. So I would be okay if it was like quick blow, done. They don't know what's coming, and it's over before they have any sense of pain. But this sort of thing where somebody's in pain when they're brought in, and likely whatever you do to help is going to make it more painful for a while. I can't with that. I struggled so bad. Like, Sam had this terrible infection and I had to rinse the wound out in order to get it to start to heal, because water bathing actually causes the fibers to begin to rebuild faster. So it helps. Like, scientifically speaking, he would heal much more slowly and with more danger of infection if I didn't do it. But it hurt him. So I had to, like, really consciously set aside my feelings, and it was so hard. I was, like, ready to throw up a couple times because the sounds he was making of pain were like it felt like I was being gutted. Yeah. So I feel very much like Katniss in this, where it's just oh God, trying to do something, and also their life is in your hands now, and you're like trying to help, but you may not succeed, and they don't hear.
Yeah, it's I know when after an early surgery, and I had to tend to his incision, like his wound, and they left it open after a surgery. And I used to have to pack it with gauze and but I was able to do all that. Like, I don't know how. I don't know where our reserves come from.
I don't know. Maybe it's easier with your husband if you just, like, make sure you're mad at him before you do it. Just like, yeah, you wait. I'm going to pack that wound later.
Jab my finger right in there.
Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Did that hurt? Oh.
But I did all of that, right? And, like, never batted an eye. And then years and years later, he had like a boil or something on his finger. It was just like a small little thing, right? And he wanted me to pop it for him. Blah. And I popped it for him, and then I was like, "Are you good?" He said, "Yeah." And then I fainted.
Oh my God! You fainted. That is wow.
I was sitting on the edge of the tub. I had his hand. I did whatever he wanted me to do. I looked at him. I said, "Are you okay?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay." Zoop, right into the tub.
Good to hear. I'm not. I'll see you later.
I don't know why that happened.
Oh man, that is funny. All right, so she has to peel, like, the fabric off of her leg, and yeah, I think it's not too bad to soak. Gingerly, I stretch my leg into the pool, propping the heel on a rock so the leather doesn't get sodden. And she's, like, trying to decide, should I stay here and hunker down? Should I move? But I don't know where the careers are. I could just walk right into them. And as she is deciding, she starts to get sleepy, but and is like, I feel like I'm out in the open too much, but also I don't know how I leave this like lovely pool where my leg feels okay. Like this is the only place for me.
Exactly. She's got like the place for her leg in her hand. She's got like she finds some more of those plants that she can eat and a little bit of rabbit left over. And she's like, you know what, this isn't that bad.
Yep. Yeah, it's very much giving just like, well, and eventually she literally thinks, let them find me. If
right.
They want
they want me. And then you know what? They fucking do.
They do indeed. They take her at her word on that. So they find me, they do. It's lucky I'm ready to move on, because when I hear the feet, I have less than a minute head start. The moment I awake, I'm up and running. And she's really kind of thinking maybe this is the end of it for me. And she climbs up a tree to get away with this burned leg, which you guys.
And hands.
Oh,
she's still in this fucking tree with her hands are all fucking burnt to shit.
When I tell you all that, I literally have like goosebumps of sympathy pains right now. Oh my God, that sounds so hideous. Oh, it's like there's an episode of I Love Lucy where she wants this really expensive dress, but she doesn't want to let people know that she hasn't got the money. So she doesn't ask the price. She knows it's a lot, but she takes it on credit without asking the price, and later finds out it was a $500 dress in, fucking 19 whatever that was. So eventually the designer's like, well, one of my models is ill, and if you will be willing to wear one of my dresses, you can have this dress for free. So she's psyched, and then decides, oh, it's my modeling debut, let me get a tan, and falls asleep and winds up really burned. And the dress that he has her wear for the show is tweed with this high collar and these long sleeves. And it's just, she walks out without bending her legs because the back of her knees is so burned. She has to like do that kind of weird hobble where you just tilt from one foot to the other. Anyway, what I'm saying is a sunburn and tweed is much, much worse than second-degree burns and climbing a tree.
Yeah, clearly.
Yes. So anyway,
she gets like 20 feet up this tree, and she can like look down on them, and she sees them, and they look a mess. I mean, their careers, and they're strong, and they're sturdy, and they're well fed, and they're well armed, but they had a bit of a problem as well.
Yeah, they did. And she says, how's everything with you? I call down cheerfully. This takes them aback, but I know the crowd will love it. Well enough. Yourself? It's been a bit warm for my taste. The air's better up here. Why don't you come on up? Think I will, says the same boy. Here, take this, Cato. She offers him the silver bow and sheath of arrow. My bow! My arrows! Just the sight of them makes me so angry I want to scream. At myself, at that traitor PETA for distracting me from having them. So, this guy Cato begins to climb, but he's heavier. So she can go on the end of very thin branches and it's okay. And
yeah, they've got like 60 pounds on her. So he starts climbing up this fucking tree, and he's feeling pretty good about himself until you start to hear that crack. And then he falls right to the fucking ground, and she hopes that he has broken his neck. He doesn't, though. He didn't. I was kind of hoping he was just going to be like hit the ground, and it'd be just like a cannon would go off because whoops. Then the girl who has the arrows, her name is Glimmer, and Katniss is rightfully just like, what the fuck are with these names?
Yes. Oh, RoShawn and I played a little game the other day where I changed out all of the vowels in my name for double vowels or AHs or EGIHs. And it sort of reminds me of the reaction I have to some of those names.
Same.
She tries to shoot me, and it's immediately evident that she's incompetent with a bow. One of the arrows gets lodged in the tree near me, though, and I'm able to seize it. I wave it teasingly above her head as if this was the sole purpose of retrieving it, when actually I mean to use it if I ever get the chance. I could kill them, every one of them, if those silver weapons were in my hands. Which really made me go, oh, I need her to have these.
Yeah, same. Like, how long do I have to wait before she gets these? Turns out, not very long. So they're pissed off. This was also lovely to read. They are so fucking mad. And then Peeta is finally like, oh, just fucking let her stay up there. Not like she's going anywhere. And Peeta.
Yeah.
What is Peeta doing?
What do you think?
Well, I had said earlier that, like, maybe he's doing, like, a double agent thing, right? Because I had said something along the lines of, when we saw Peeta with the careers in the earlier chapters, it didn't seem like he had shared with them that this is a girl who climbs trees.
True.
And so I was like, well, maybe he's just, like, playing with them and he's playing the game, but he's not actively helping them find her, right? Like, he's trying to play kind of both sides of the fence. So we have him here looking like he's irritated and that she's not worth all the hassle or the struggle that they're in, the effort that they're putting out in this moment. He's like, we'll just get her in the morning. But you could also read it as if he's just trying to redirect their attention from her.
True. Yep.
So I don't know. Once again, all I can say about Peeta is I guess I have to fucking keep my eyes on him because and then later on, you know, he does something, but we don't know because she's all like doped up. But I just gotta keep my eye on this kid. I don't know, y'all. I don't know.
So let's see. He's right about one thing. I'm going nowhere. So as she is like trying to figure out how she's going to sleep up here, she sees something. And at first she thinks it's an animal and starts to be like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. And she realizes it's Rue. And she relaxes. It's like, oh, okay. And you're like, oh, cool. No threat. It's Rue. But then Rue points above her head and she realizes that there is a tracker jacker nest above her. It's a type of wasp. And this thing is horrifying.
This thing is a lab created waspy menace, which is actually not a bad. It's not. Oh my.
There's so many directions to go with that. I'm just gonna let it lay.
I'm not going to
leave it.
Just gonna leave it right there. But yeah, these things are like an ordinary wasp is bad enough. She, in my opinion, underplays an ordinary wasp because she says that they are a leave us alone and we'll leave you alone type. And that is not the type of wasp I have ever fucking met. The wasp I know who get a hint that you exist and got a real problem with it. That's been my experience with wasps. So I don't know what the fuck she's talking about.
I really like the idea of them being like, look at this bitch over here. Just
That's what they do.
Disgusting. Ugh.
Then they go back into their little fucking nest and tell all their friends about it. Then their friends come out and look at you. Look, there's a whole bunch of them. Look at this bitch sitting out here on her patio like she pay rent here. Almost positive that's a quote.
Oh man.
But so these things were created by the Capitol, and they not only are they poisonous, but they can track you. They like recognize you and communicate and all go after you, and it just
I'm going to read this. Strategically placed like landmines around the districts during the war. They have a distinctive solid gold body and a sting that raises a lump the size of a plum on contact. Most people can't tolerate more than a few stings. Some die at once. If you live, the hallucinations brought on by the venom have actually driven people to madness. And they will hunt down anyone who disturbs their nest and attempt to kill them. That's where the tracker part of the name comes from. And
after the war, the Capitol gets rid of all the ones in the city, by the way. But just leaves the rest of them out there willy-nilly and just fuck everybody else.
Indeed. That's
Jesus
how they do.
Christ.
That's how they always do. They're so fucking tiresome, these assholes, I swear to God. So she's out here like, all right, I'm going to have to figure out how I can use this because these things could easily kill me. But if I can play this right, I could fuck them up really good with this bitch. And the main thing is that the hive is attached firmly to the branch so that she would have to saw through. She can't get close enough to like cut through the nest itself. She has to cut the branches on. And that will cause vibration in the nest, which could cause them to come after her. Or it could cause sound so that everybody below realizes what she's doing and then they just get out of the way and the whole exercise is for naught. So what she figures out she's going to do is saw through, and she uses like that knife that she had gotten with the serrated edge, which amen to having that. But she decides that she's going to do it during the anthem because that is going to be so loud that it'll cover it up.
Right. And she realizes that that the nest is kind of quiet and it's because of all the smoke from the fires.
Right.
And
I forgot about that.
And she remembers that was one of the only defense the rebels had against the wasp during the war was smoke. So she's like, between that and the anthem, if she can get this plan to work, this is going to be like genius or the height of stupidity, like one or the other, depending on how it works out.
That's how these things always are, right? If it works, you're a genius. If it doesn't, you're a fucking moron. You don't deserve to live. So she's climbing up there and starts on this and is not able to get through the whole thing by the time the anthem is over. And she's trying to decide what she should do next. In the faint light of the career's torches, I inch back down to my fork to find the best surprise I've ever had. Sitting on my sleeping bag is a small plastic pot attached to a silver parachute. My first gift from a sponsor. Haymitch must have had it sent in during the anthem. The pot easily fits in the palm of my hand. What can it be? Not food, surely. I unscrew the lid and know by the scent that it's medicine. Cautiously, I probe the surface of the ointment. The throbbing in my fingertip vanishes. Oh, Haymitch, I whisper. Thank you. He has not abandoned me, not left me to fend entirely for myself. The cost of this medicine must be astronomical. Probably not one, but many sponsors have contributed to buy this one tiny pot. To me, it's priceless. So She uses this to treat her entire body, and it's just like, oh God, this is good.
I'm really curious when she got this, like, if her shtick taunting the careers helped increase her sponsorship. Ooh. Or if she already had enough to put her over the top to be able to afford this or not. But I feel like the timing of this medicine, not only because she desperately needs it in this moment, but that, you know, she played up for the screen and it worked.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's a really fun theory. Because, you know, who knows, but it feels like really plausible.
Mm-hmm.
Man, yeah, I really like that.
You know, and it's funny too, because at first I wanted it to be, they were so impressed with her resolve, like to get out of the fire and everything, and how hard that was. But these don't feel like people that are impressed by shit like that. These feel like people who respond to, again, the entertainment of it all. You know what I mean? The showmanship. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So maybe it's a combination of both. Maybe I'm being too cynical. But can you be too cynical with a book like this?
You definitely are so cynical. I can't believe it. Oh my God. They're out here like burning children. And you're just like, I don't know. Maybe they're not that bad. So finally she manages to like rest a little bit, sleep, and then she wakes up as the sky is coming up. Below me I can see the career pack. Did I say the sky is coming up? The sun is coming up. I can see the career pack and Peeta asleep on the ground. By her position leaning up against the trunk of the tree, I'd guess Glimmer was supposed to be on guard, but fatigue overcame her. My eyes squint as they try to penetrate the tree next to me, but I can't make out Rue. Since she tipped me off, it only seems fair to warn her. Besides, if I'm going to die today, it's Rue I want to win. Even if it means a little extra food for my family, the idea of Peeta being crowned victor is unbearable. So she calls out to her, and I love this so much. She warns her, and Rue's like, bet, and just takes off. And she watches Rue leap from tree to tree and is like, wow, that has to be what she showed them to get that high score with the game makers. And I really enjoy that. Like, just me too. Revelation to Katniss of exactly what it is that Rue can do.
Yeah, I love this. And she's like, she should have at least gotten a 10.
At this point, it's time to finish off the job, but the Tracker Jackers are waking up. And she's really like, oh God, I just got to do it. I just got to do it. I'm going to get stung, and I just have to deal with the fact that I'm about to get stung. Then the nest, as she's like cutting it, she gets, I think, 2 stings, and
she gets at least 3.
Does she? I'm trying to see the spot.
She says, I feel a second sting on my cheek, a third on my neck, and their venom almost immediately makes me woozy.
There it is. Yes, you're right. She takes the stingers out, which we find out later is a really good thing, because evidently they've got venom in them. So if you leave them, it gets worse, but she yanks them so quick that mitigates how bad the effects could have been. And it goes, the nest goes down, and it just says, it's mayhem. There's another girl with Glimmer, and the 2 of them just completely get killed by these things.
Yeah, they don't move fast enough, because when that fucking nest drops, it says Peeta and some others were smart enough to just fucking run in the opposite direction. Yeah, but not everybody does. They drop everything and fucking run to the lake. But these 2 girls just don't move fast enough. I don't know if they're like trying to get their shit, or if they're just too disoriented or what, but they get attacked. And excuse me, I think I told the story probably on another podcast, or maybe an Unsober, but when I was a little girl, I saw a it's such a weird story. A guy was driving through my apartment complex. He's driving a pickup, and he was transporting bees.
Wow. Okay.
Crates and crates and crates of bees. And he was cutting through from one main road to another, and he cut through the apartment complex. And we had speed bumps. And he did not mind the speed bumps.
Oh, no.
And all of these crates of all these beehives crashed off the back of his truck and just happened right outside my patio door. I watched my neighbor get 150 bee stings. Oh yeah, it was bad. It was bad. Like the news came out. It was bad. It was real bad.
Oh,
but yeah,
God.
I was probably 7 years old. All of us that grew up around where we all still talk about it. Remember the day the bees? Do you remember the bees?
My God,
but
that's terrifying.
It was horrifying to watch this man, his name was Michael, I think his name was. But yeah, my neighbor, he was getting out of his car. He had no idea what happened. He opened his car door and stepped out, and it was like something off of a TV show. His whole body was covered in bees. Ugh, horrifying. Yeah, and he's lucky because they were just they were just regular old bees. They weren't wasps or anything.
Yeah, true.
But yeah, he definitely hospital the whole fucking deal. Yeah, and a bunch of us got stung. I didn't get stung. I was in the house, but a lot of my friends did, and a couple of the adults that went out to grab the kids and snatch them and bring them in the house got stung real bad. But yeah, this is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
That's the idea of you're transporting bees and you don't pay attention to something like a speed bump. That's you don't pay attention to a speed bump when you've got a crock pot full of chili in your front seat next to you. You just do everything more carefully. How do you not notice something like that?
You think you'd be a little bit more careful, right? You're transporting bees.
It's one thing if it's you hit a pothole, something that's not supposed to be there that you didn't account for. But they mark speed bumps and usually paint them bright yellow, something like that.
And why are you cutting through a residential neighborhood? Just go through the light, sir. Just go through the light. How much are you
that's
actually,
a really good point.
How much time are you shaving off of your commute, really?
I don't know why that's so funny to me, but just the idea of I got a truck full of bees, but this apartment complex could shave 3 minutes off my time. So you know what? Fuck it. Jesus Christ. I hope he got in trouble.
And why are you late? Where are you going?
Right?
Bees are in a hurry.
Need these bees. You don't understand the urgency. Do you remember those bees that got left out on the tarmac earlier this year? I think it was this year. Who knows what time is?
Oh, God.
Do you remember that?
Just vaguely. Was that this year?
I could swear it was.
I can't remember.
Millions of bees that were transported on a Delta flight died in extreme heat after being left on the tarmac in Atlanta. About 5 million bees bound for Alaska were forced to stop where most died. They were supposed to be transported onto another, out of the heat. And they were not. Which, considering that we have got a bee problem.
We can't afford to just be losing 5 million bees willy-nilly.
Yep.
People, get it together.
There's an article here. Millions of bees were dying. Local beekeepers ran to help. Hold on. Let me see if there's anything that we can do. Because there wasn't enough room in the cargo hold, they sent the shipment to Georgia, but that never happened. It was never placed on the plane. McElrea told airport workers that Morgan was on his way to help, so when he arrived, he was taken immediately to an outdoor cargo area where he found that they were just I vacuumed out dead ones. I saw there were several packages where every bee was dead. He called McElrea at her home to give her the bad news and came to the conclusion that to save the bees that were left, we'd have to give them away to beekeepers around Atlanta. Hey, Atlanta beekeeper Edward Morgan, and he's a black man with a really nice beard. One of those like white beards that's like, you know, that real clean, crisp white look. And he got word out to other beekeepers to take them in at no cost. About 25 answered the call and hurried to the airport to help sort through the packages and rescue the agitated survivors.
Aww.
Yeah, that's nice that they all came together. And I have 2 thriving packs and 2 that will probably make it, but the 5th is questionable. And
shout out to the black beekeepers.
Yeah, right. 70% died because of 2 factors. They needed to be kept cool, and they needed a steady supply of sugar water as a food substitute because nobody expected them to be in limbo for days. They didn't have anything to eat either. So, yeah, that's rough. Anyway, yeah.
Oh my God. What? I almost said we got to be more careful.
Ma'am, this is serious. I'm going to need you to discuss this with the gravity it deserves.
When I meant it, I meant it with my whole heart. No, jeez. All right. So
anyway, so she gets the bow here because these bitches are dying.
Yeah, it's going slow too. Like she's like she watches them go down, and she waits a couple minutes, and then it's just like, where is that fucking cannon at though? Yep. So finally she has to go down there, and like the one girl, I guess it's Glimmer, is on top of the bow, and they're starting to swell, and they're oozing and they're twitching, and finally she's just like, well, I guess I'm just gonna have to go. And she gets to Glimmer right as the cannon fires, and
right as that venom starts to kick in.
Right, she's looking at this girl like, this girl was so beautiful, and she is not anymore. You can't even recognize her. And her limbs are 3 times their normal size. She says that, you know, she had said that the venom gives you like a plum-sized lump. That was an underestimate.
Yeah.
And she gets the bow, and then she starts having these hallucinations. And
when she's like pulling the bow away from her hands, she's thinking that there's like goo that's hanging, you know, like later on when she sees the bow, it's totally clean. So she's like, okay, I'm pretty sure that was not real. But this is, we really start to get into some trippy territory at this point.
She's telling herself, I have to do this. You gotta fucking do this. Which again, we talked about her discipline earlier. You know, like that she accomplished this with what's going on with her body, with the venom and the hallucinations and everything else. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, it is.
She's able to actually get this done.
So she digs under her, forces her onto her stomach, yanks it free. I hear footsteps, several pairs coming through the underbrush, and realize the careers have come back. They've come back to kill me, or to get their weapons, or both. But it's too late to run. I pull a slimy arrow from the sheath and try to position it on the bowstring, but instead of 1 string, I see 3. And the stench from the strings is so repulsive, I can't do it. I'm helpless as the first hunter crashes through the trees, spear lifted, poised to throw. The shock on Peta's face makes no sense to me. I wait for the blow. Instead, his arm drops to his side. What are you still doing here? He hisses at me. I stare uncomprehendingly as a trickle of water drips off a sting under his ear. His whole body starts sparkling as if he's been dipped in dew. Are you mad? Get up! Get up! Run! Behind him, Kato slashes his way through the brush. He's sparkling wet too, and badly stung under one eye. I catch the gleam of sunlight on his sword, and do as Peeta says, holding tightly to my bow and arrows, banging into trees that appear out of nowhere, tripping and falling as I try to keep my balance, back past my pool and into unfamiliar woods. The world begins to bend in alarming ways. A butterfly balloons to the size of a house, then shatters into a million stars. Trees transform to blood and splash down over my boots. Ants begin to crawl out of the blisters on my hands, and I can't shake them free. They're climbing up my arms, my neck. Someone's screaming, a long, high-pitched scream that never breaks for breath. I have a vague idea it might be me. I trip and fall into a small pit lined with tiny orange bubbles that hum like the Tracker Jacker nest. Tucking my knees up to my chin, I wait for death. Sick and disoriented, I'm able to form only one thought. Peeta Malark just saved my life. Then the ants bore into my eyes, and I black out.
Ugh.
I don't like any of that.
This is a terrible, terrible trip. Yep. 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend. This is just awful. This is like a fucking 1960s LSD story. You know, the one time you took some bad acid and you thought you could fly and you jumped off of a roof. Like, this is all the worst things. This is the kind of thing that kept me from ever trying it for a long time because I was convinced that this is what it would be like.
Yes, I have never to this day, and it's because of things like this and that that Muppet special. Do you remember that Muppet like anti-drug special that they did?
No, I don't.
Oh my god, it was like animated, and it was this kid who's like, there's a point at which he's on this real creepy roller coaster with all of the Muppets, and Kermit's there, and they're basically like, don't take drugs because it's like this horrible thing. And I remember as a kid that worked real well on me because I found it horrifying. But I found out later that a lot of my friends were like, that looked dope as hell and made me do drugs right away. So, you know, you're my berry.
I don't remember that at all. That's funny.
Okay, so 15. She wakes up and it's just over and over again, like waking up into a nightmare that she's not getting out of. And the only thing I could think of for this for me was that time that I ate way too much weed brownie and I thought that I could sleep it off, and I woke up and I was still stoned and I was like, oh no. But eventually she comes to her senses, and I think that Rue tells her that she was out for like 36 hours.
Yeah, like she finally breaks down and asks, and she tells her, yeah, it's been a couple of days. Yeah, all she can think, she wakes up and she's just like, well, it was morning when I like dropped, and now it's like the afternoon. But my body feels like it's been more than a day.
Yeah.
And she worries that if she slept that long, she's not going to have any idea who's left because she would have missed the big slideshow. So she's wondering about like who's left from the careers and did they make it? And she's also wondering about Rue. Like, and she keeps thinking like, she's so small, it wouldn't have taken much venom to do her in if she got stuck. Like, I wonder if she made it.
Yeah. So, and there's also like, she's thinking about Gale here and remembers about Peeta, and it's just like, I'm so pissed that I owe him again. Like, what the fuck? Every time.
I love this part of her.
I hate this so
guys.
much.
I love that she is so angry that this motherfucker has saved her and now she's in his debt again. There is something about that just really speaks to me.
Like
that sort of, like
I had to
have you?
bully RoShawn into accepting help from listeners. Yes, wow. Could
No,
never have seen
not
this coming.
not just that though, but like the specific because I got help from people that I enjoy and who seem to enjoy me, right? This is a different thing. Like there like I don't have a lot of, well, that's not true. That's a lie. I do have a handful of people who I just simply do not fuck with anymore and who do not fuck with me anymore, right? That's life. It happens. There are people in that group who did me such incredible solids that I made up for, either like literally, if it was money, it was paid back. Sometimes if it was just something else, I tried to give what I could in return, right? But I think back on those people who I can't stand now, and the fact that they ever helped me just galls me. Like I'll think back and be like, oh, you know what? I wouldn't have been able to do such and such without so and so. Oh, that motherfucker.
I feel that.
And there's nothing that can be done about it because it's history. It's done. Like I can't go back in time and make it so that I don't accept that help, right? Like that's done. I just have to live with it now.
Yeah. I don't have anybody in my life that I can like not really too much. No. I kind of got lucky in that way so far.
No.
So far.
Yeah. I mean, and
but I can put myself in that situation and understand it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So she is just like, I thought I was done with this part. I thought we were square. And now, God damn it, I'm back in the hole.
So, let's see. I established the slow hunter's tread I use when tracking game. Within a few minutes, I spot a rabbit and make my first kill with the bow and arrow. It's not my usual clean shot through the eye, but I'll take it. After about an hour, I find a stream. The sun's hot and severe, so while I wait for my water to purify, once again, I strip down to my underclothes and wade into the current. I'm filthy from head to toe. So she manages to like get herself back into some shape here and kills a wild turkey. And she gets snuck up on. And when she turns around, she can just about tell that it's Rue. And she says, they're not the only ones who can form alliances. And Rue's like, word? You want to...
I love this.
You want to ally with me?
You want me? I love that. Me? And Katniss is like, well, first of all, why not you? Also, you just saved my life, Loki. You're smart enough to still be alive. And I can't seem to shake you because you're clearly following me. This is very cute. And it is what I wanted. Let's just be honest. It's what I wanted. I am assuming that it's what everyone wanted when they were reading this for the first time, right? How do you not want this?
Yeah.
So I'm here for it, and it doesn't take Katniss long at all to have a moment of just being like, we both know if only one of us can come out of this alive, but we're just not going to think about that right now, because that is the fucking black cloud that's hanging over this entire endeavor, right? No matter, whether if you're into this for Peeta and Katniss, if you're into it for like me, for Rue and Katniss, like this idea that, well, everybody is supposed to die except for one person. So how can I even really want to see friendships fostered, right? Why would I want to see that? This is going to end in tragedy. But I want it nonetheless. I want it. And now that they are a team, I want them to somehow dismantle all of this shit. And that's probably a tall order. I don't know if Rue even makes it out of this first book, but I want a world in which not only do they both make it out, but by the end of it, one of them is running the Capitol. I don't know about the fine details, y'all. I don't know how we get from here to there. I'm just saying that's where I'd like for us to go.
Okay. Well, I love it. So Rue has some knowledge of like the remedies for these kinds of stings because apparently there are tons of these nests where she works in District 11. So she helps Katniss with her stings and eases the pain of them. And then we find out some things about District 11 as time goes on and the way that it works. And Katniss realizes, like, with kind of a start, that she doesn't know anything about the other districts really and how they live. And is genuinely like, wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really bad.
So
a little worse than us, actually.
So, yeah, Katniss is from a mining district, which is a terrible, hard life in real life, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Rue is from an agricultural district. And where Rue lives, it turns out that public whippings are not uncommon.
Right.
And there's a whole bit where Katniss is just like, oh, wow, y'all do that over there? Like, we don't even do that. She says something like, you know, they could, like, the laws are on the books that, you know, like her and Gail could be whipped for going across the fence and hunting every day if it weren't for the fact that some of their best customers are like the mayor and other important people in their district.
Yeah.
But where Rue lives, things are handled differently. And the other kid from Rue's district, was he also black?
Yes.
So both the black kids are from an agricultural district where people get whipped?
Mm-hmm.
Are we doing a thing on purpose here, or is that just sort of
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. And I think that's why there's like situation is worse and there's like this moment of Katniss being like, and I thought we had it bad, and even in comparison, we still have it not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just her realizing like there are still tiers even within District 11 or District 12 itself. There are the tiers of people like PETA, and a lot of folks in the spoiler chat have pointed out that PETA's blonde, and it seems like Katniss's mom being blonde and being from an upper class, and then she's like slumming it with Katniss's dad who's dark. And that we already have sort of like a racial divide within District 12, and that 11 is meant to be a really like obvious demonstration of that.
Interesting. Okay.
And yeah, everything is just like, even things like as basic as, oh, we have the same laws, but they just don't get enforced for us. You know, like, yeah, sure, that's technically something they could do, but they don't.
Yeah.
And it's
nothing, you're right.
You know,
at this moment where there's at some point Katniss says something about like thinking that because Rue is from an agricultural district that they would have all the food that they could want, or at least more food than Katniss has in her district. And Rue is like, no, we're not allowed to eat the crops. And Katniss is like, well, would they arrest you? And that's when the whipping comes up. But then Rue says to Katniss, well, do you get all the coal that you want? And Katniss has to be like, oh, no. We just what we can afford to buy, you know, and whatever we track it on our boots. Yep. I love when the if we continue to go in this direction, if there's a sort of thing that happens with Katniss where she starts to, like you said, I think you said a little bit earlier, open up and not just learn about how life is in the other districts, but start to make the connections, you know?
Yeah.
Start connecting those dots. Then this could really open up into, you know, like you talk about, like she's talking about having an alliance with Rue and the alliance of the careers and all that stuff. But if this is probably like a pipe dream, but open up to where it becomes we all have more in common with each other than any of us do with the Capitol. And gee, what could we accomplish if we were all working together?
Yeah.
That would be some fun stuff to read. But I don't know if there's going to be enough kids left alive to get to that point, you know? I mean, we're already down to like 10 kids now, maybe 12. Well, let's see. They had 24. And then it was 13 after the cornucopia. And then we just lost 2. So we got like 11 people now, maybe unconfirmed, because we haven't had a slideshow, but probably down to like 11,
we
right?
we have less than 11 because there was 13 left on the first day. Then they kill the girl that was under Katniss, and they say like 11 to go. And then Glimmer and the girl die under her tree. And so that's another 2 down. So we're at 9.
Well, 11 to go. Well, okay. What? Why am I thinking? I'm thinking of the person who said that wouldn't have been counting themselves, but maybe they were if they were.
Oh, well, I see what you mean.
See what I'm saying? But either way.
Yeah. But it says, like, wasn't it like almost half the kids died at the cornucopia?
I feel like it was 13 after the cornucopia. I forgot about the girl that Peeta went back and killed. So then that would be 12, and then they lost 2 more. So I'm thinking like 9 or 10 left. I think your estimate's close.
So your hope here has been that everybody who is in the games like eventually comes together and decides to try and take the games down from the inside.
It's a nice thought that I'm having, yes. Whether or not it could actually happen, it'd be, it's hard too, because you have in the games people who are definitely aligned with the power structure, right? Like but it doesn't mean that those people are irredeemable, right? Like it's harder to reach people that are that close to the power structure, that have that close proximity, that benefit. But they're not completely unreachable. They're just, it's a harder sell. But I guess, I don't know. Like my Pollyanna, like, oh, it'd be really cool if all of these kids would just realize that, like, together they should just be like, fuck this. I'm not sure exactly what power they would have, and against game makers who can just bring a wall of fire down and squash whatever you tried to start.
Sure.
But that could be fodder for like books 2 and 3. I'm not really sure where the story's going, but it would be really nice if that was where we were going. But so I don't know if there's
at what point do you think you would start to be like, I guess that's not happening? Like, how many people would have to be left before you go, okay, I guess that's not the direction we're going?
Well, the thing is, it's not so much, and this is where I would need a better breakdown of exactly who is left and where they're from, because it's not so much the numbers of who's left, but where are they from, the people who are left.
Okay.
Right.
So like if we have 5 people left, but 3 are careers, then you're not expecting that we're going to throw in with them and suddenly be,
exactly. Gotcha. Then the odds of that, I feel like, decrease.
Right. Okay.
But say it's like 2 careers left. Peeta, Katniss, Rue, 2 careers, and throw in some other outer district person, maybe from like I forget who all is dead, but somebody that's not from 1 or 2. Then maybe when the careers are thinned out, they become a little less certain of their superiority, their supremacy, a little less certain of their, I'm definitely going to win, right. And then maybe there's some wiggle room. Then maybe you can start talking to them about the reality of their situation.
Yeah.
And maybe they become more reachable as a pack when they're running like this. I don't think there's anything you can say to them. But as they start to thin out, then yeah, maybe there's some talking that can be had.
Well. There's also an interesting moment where she brings out those sunglasses and it's like they make it so I can't see, and Rue is like, those are for nighttime.
I love this. This is so good.
We have them back home. We use them for when we have to be harvesting at night.
Through the night. I love that. It's like harvest time. They don't go to school. All you do is they actually feed you more during harvest time because you need your strength, because that's how hard they fucking work you. And you are working. And at nighttime, usually your fucking day's done, right? Because you can't see anymore. Oh, but wait, look, here are these glasses, and now you don't even need to sleep at night. You can just keep fucking working. Yeah.
But then you try and steal them, and you get shot. Yeah. And she says, everybody knew he was no danger. Martin wasn't right in the head. I mean, he still acted like a 3-year-old. He just wanted the glasses to play with. And again, with Katniss thinking about how there's a girl like this that hangs around the Hob, and everybody just kind of like, cares for her in their little ways. But her being treated like that is so not on the table. Which, that's a thing.
Yep. Katniss doesn't even have anything to say to this story. She thinks this to herself about the little girl at the Hob, but she doesn't have anything to say to Rue. She just says, so what did these do? Because, what do you say to that?
Yep.
So, yeah, these are some pretty cool glasses that let you sleep in the night. I mean, let you see in the night. And she puts it on and she can see clear as day. She can see everything. She can right through the trees. She can make out, plants and shit. And
oh my
it's
God.
pretty impressive.
Ruth straight up tells her there's 10 of us left. She just says it right here. I totally missed this.
Oh, the girls from District 1 and District 4 are dead. Okay, we knew that. Those are 2 girls we saw die.
Yeah.
And she says there's 10 of us left. But we don't know the makeup.
Yeah.
She asks about Peter. She tells Rue, I think he saved my life. And Rue says, well, he's not with them now. I've been spying on their camp. And he's not there. So maybe he did save you and he had to run away.
Maybe
Katniss he did, son.
Well, it was probably just part of his act. And Rue's like, his act? Was that what that was? That didn't seem like an act. And Katniss is like, of course it was an act. And she's like, okay.
If you say so.
Also, it turns out over here. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, it turns out the careers got 2 pairs of those sunglasses as well.
That's exactly what I was like. I'm over here feeling like we've got such an advantage with these glasses, only to find out that these motherfuckers have 2 pairs. And I got so pissed. I got so mad, you guys. Oh my God. I was so mad. Ugh. How that happens sometimes where you don't realize how much comfort you're taking in a thing. And then somebody just throws a fucking wrench into the works and you're like, you know what? Fuck you then. So let's see. We're strong in a different way. You can shoot. What can I do? You can feed yourself. Can they? They don't need to. They have all those supplies, Rue says. Say they didn't. Say the supplies were gone. How long would they last? I mean, it's the Hunger Games, right? But Katniss, they're not hungry. No, they're not. That's the problem. And for the first time, I have a plan. A plan that isn't motivated by the need for flight and evasion. An offensive plan. I think we're going to have to fix that, Rue.
I love that.
And that's the end of the chapter.
And that could go a long way of doing a lot of different things, too. Because these kids, these careers have never really wanted for anything. All their needs have been met. They've been given a purpose their whole life. so that they show up to these games feeling very, very entitled, dare I say, to win. And I don't want to say that they don't know any adversity, but they don't know what it's like to live in some of these other districts, to deal with what that is on a day-to-day basis, to have to be able, like, they have survival skills, but they never had to survive, if that makes any sense.
Very much. Yeah.
And
the survival skills have always been like hypothetical.
Yeah, you know, and like, I want to see what these kids have got going for them when all of their privileges are suddenly taken away from them. All of their little advantages are gone. They wake up and that shit's gone. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, though. I really hope that's what's going to happen. I hope that somehow they're going to manage to steal all their shit. I don't know how they pull it off, but I would love to see it. But yeah, I want them to wake up and really have to face the day. Now, granted, even if you took all their stuff, sponsorship is a thing in this universe. So I guess their sponsors could just airlift some shit to them. You know what I mean? But I'd like to see them sweat for a couple hours till their presents start parachuting in, and see how they fucking like it, and see how they do, and also see where they land. Like, it's really easy to be certain in your right to fill in the blank when everything is what you think you deserve. But when you don't have all that shit to stand on, maybe you start thinking about some shit differently. Maybe all of a sudden the games aren't fun. Maybe all of a sudden they're not fair. And you start thinking about, what am I doing here? What is this? Why am I doing this? Why am I enjoying this? You know?
Yeah. What an interesting thought. She said coyly. Yeah, like Rue and her teaming up, this is one of my favorite things. I really enjoy Rue. I really love that Katniss's personality is such that she is strong for other people so often that she just instinctively kind of goes into this relationship with somebody that reminds her of Prim in a way that helps focus her. You know, I feel like a lot of us can relate to this, that it's hard for us to do things on our own behalf. But when it's somebody else that we care about that needs it, all of a sudden we're just Wonder Woman.
I like that Rue is not, while she is definitely disadvantaged, she's not helpless. Definitely, I love that she also is bringing some shit to the table. She's not just a benefactor of Katniss and what Katniss brings to the table. She also has some things to offer. And has already shown how useful and how smart she is. So it's not like one-sided, the relationship.
And I also really enjoy just the detail about how the Capitol keeps the districts from knowing about each other. Because this is such a thing that we are experiencing right now. In the past, 10 years, there has been a major change in the way a lot of people see the world because of camera phones. Everybody's got a fucking video camera in their pocket. So now we are getting to see the things that we have always only heard about. And most of us would just sort of be like, well, it probably didn't go down like that. That sounds crazy. And now we get to see, no, it went down exactly fucking like that. And yes, it was fucking crazy. Like that is what exactly it was. And so that, like, keeping people from understanding other people's situations and experiences is a tool. It's a means. You foster mistrust between groups by letting them think the others are liars who just make things up. And then with the most recent news coming out of Gaza, we're seeing what it's like to get news from the people going through it who have the means to share, and the news and the way they tell what's going on, and how completely different the whole tone of the conversation is depending on where you're getting your information from and how the propaganda works and how filtering and slightly tweaking the wording of something. I mean, it's so insidious and it's so obvious. It's so blatant that it's like insulting. There's no shame at all. But we're seeing it in such a dramatic way.
Right.
That I feel is really starting to make an impression on a lot of us. And it's one of the things that I try to remember when I occasionally have those moments of the internet was a mistake. You know, every now and then I'm just like, why did we do this? This is all, everything is bad. And then I'm like, no, the internet has it made me understand other people in a way that I feel like I don't know that there's ever been a period in this world that we've
not
been
in a
able
very,
to
very
understand.
long time. I mean, there was a period of time where you would live your life and you would be so, like, you would live and die, 20 miles from where you were born.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would have firsthand knowledge of everything that was in your immediate area because everything was right there. So you had very intimate knowledge of your whole world because your whole world was so small. But then as we started to move out across the world and get bigger and bigger, it became impossible to experience the world firsthand because it's just, it's too big. It's too big. And so we had millennia of distance between all of us. And then you're right, the internet happened. And all of a sudden the world got a little bit smaller. And you could see things from other people, like literally from someone else's eyes. They could just put the camera up and say, this is what I see every day when I walk out of my house. And you could see it too. And it changed everything. Changed, like, can't go back.
Oh yeah, I
don't know if we should. I mean, sometimes I want to, but like not in a real way.
This is what I'm saying.
But
I have to stop myself because I'm just like, I hate it. And then I'm like, no. Anything that provides people with information is a double-edged sword because it can be used for the ideal and it can also be used the way that it's been used, so that now we've got people that are literally thinking the earth is flat. Like,
that's the thing too, right? Though now there's so much then we found ourselves in a situation where there is so much information out there that now the burden is back on the individual to have discernment, and not everybody has that. And so
they sure don't.
They
sure don't, Sean.
Don't.
They sure don't.
You plug into the wrong fucking feed, and next thing you know, you're on national television talking about how there was no, the earth is flat and they didn't go to the moon and some other things.
Guys, I used to think that we hadn't gone to the moon.
Oh my God.
You and I have talked about this before because we did a conspiracy theory episode of Unsober.
I know.
The fucking History Channel. No right to that name anymore. But it was one of those Ancient Aliens episodes or something like that. And I left watching that episode and I was like, it was a lie. We never went to the moon. Nobody knows but me, the smart one who watched this special on the History Channel. Only I, the secret keeper of information. Yeah, that was a bleak time.
I mean, it's dangerous out there on the World Wide Web.
I really was under the impression for far too long that nothing could be put on television that wasn't true. That there were rules. I really thought that.
Girl, there are no rules.
None.
Every election cycle, I get so mad. I Google the same question because I forgot that I Googled it last election cycle, and I keep getting the same answer. Every fucking election cycle, I'm like, why is it legal to lie?
Yep.
I get reminded that there was a court case and they decided that political ads weren't selling anything, so they weren't held to the same standard as advertisers are.
What about this
Because,
whole new phenomenon of like, I'm going to run as a Democrat, get elected, and switch parties once I'm in office? That's legal too. Like
legal.
4 candidates have done this after getting voted in, you guys, recently.
Yep.
Very, very recently.
Yep. Or like that guy Santos that just literally lied about everything with his campaign.
Everything. RoShawn,
no rules.
There is some footage out there of Joe Biden just claiming that he like went to Harvard. Shit, like it's a speech where he talks about his own history and says it's all lies. And it's from 2 decades, 3 decades ago at this point when he was running for some other thing. And there was no way to fact check back then. So he just freewheeling, saying whatever, footloose and fancy free with the fucking facts. And today people are listening going, wait, what? That doesn't sound right. I mean, it is bleak.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like I told you before we started recording that I just had I accidentally watched some broadcast news. The remote was like away from me and I just didn't move fast enough. And I had been watching some shit on TikTok and looked up at my screen and then back at my phone and then back at my screen. And they were both talking about the same thing. And yet we're talking about 2 wildly different things.
Yeah.
And I was like, you can't, but what? It just, and my brain just like glitched for a minute. It was surreal.
You feel like you're being you're being gaslit.
I am being gaslit.
Straight up.
We're being gaslit. Yeah, like but anyway, you guys know. You know, you're just smart people. You access the information. I'm not telling you nothing you don't already know. Ugh. That's my final take on the whole thing is no.
Yeah, all of this like really ties. We're talking about like the keeping people's experiences apart from what yours is, in a sense of like your peers. But there's also, of course, you don't get to see what the rich do. Because then you might start to get ideas because they can get away with so much more and they live in a way that is so dramatically different. So you get told a whole story about how, the rich aren't so different. They just, work harder and took advantage of certain opportunities. And then you start to be like, wait a minute. I thought that he started that company. He just inherited that company? From somebody who stole it from somebody else? Wait a second.
Where
or
exactly
you find
is the
out
hard part?
Yeah, you find out that like GE paid $0 in income tax, the entire company, whereas I paid 25%.
Yeah.
So, then there's those things that they don't want you to find out about. You can't find out how bad it is for some because you need to think they're the villains. And you can't find out how good it is for the others because you need to not see them as the enemy.
Yeah,
they need to be aspirational.
They need to be the good guys. They need to be who you want to be. Exactly right. Yep. So in summary, I like to think that districts 1 through 12. I'm gonna even include 1. I'm not even gonna write off District 1 yet. I should, but I'm not gonna. Maybe districts 1 through 12 will have a grand rising, right? and that's how these stories will end. It will be a complete, this whole way the society is structured will be in shambles by the time this trilogy is over with. That's what I'd like to see. Shambles.
Okay. I don't know why that's so funny to me, but shambles. All right. Well, that's what we're aiming for, kiddos. I'm unfortunately, this week, we don't have any new patrons. Really sad news.
No.
Everybody, if you're interested in supporting Unspoiled, making our lives better and more fulfilled, if you find yourself listening to our show and thinking, God, I want to be a socialist, you should definitely go to patreon.com/unspoiled and help us out by becoming a patron at any tier. And that'll be one step closer to redistributing wealth that we all seek.
With that music playing, I kept thinking you were going to do like a Sarah McLachlan while you put this like request for new patrons.
The arms of the angels fly away. Anyway, so yeah, go to patreon.com/unspoiled. You can also just become a free follower and just get news updates and stuff when I post to the open free feed. And that's where you can find like the schedules for the week and what I'm going to be doing live and things like that. So yeah, and I just mailed the postcards for October because I'm behind. The November postcards have been ordered and are on their way to me, and that's a $10 and up tier. And I'm going to go ahead and post those in the Facebook group because I kept meaning to do that. But I designed some pretty cute ones because I wanted something like vaguely spooky for October, but I knew that they weren't going to get delivered to everybody until after Halloween. So I designed a tarot card that's called The Listener. And it's really hard for me to like describe it, but I thought it came out pretty cool looking. So yeah, that'll be the October postcard to everybody, $10 and up. And then RoShawn and I this month, we just recorded on seasoning last Saturday, which I got very heated in that. I don't feel like there's an episode about food where I'm not heated.
There's not.
But this coming episode of Unsober is going to be RoShawn watching Zoolander. And I'm really excited about it. She's never seen it. I am really crossing my fingers that it holds up. But the first time I ever saw it was like 6 years ago. And I loved it. So I'm pretty confident we're going to be all right. There's probably some problematic stuff in there. But, you know, what can you do? I'm just, oh my God. The seasoning and how mad I got. RoShawn, did I tell you a lady blocked me today because I said a recipe was bad?
Oh, no.
You guys, I got into a fight on Facebook, the likes of which I have not done in months and months. And it was in response to a roast turkey recipe. And it was just a bad recipe. I'm sorry. It was 1 tablespoon of chili paste for an entire turkey. The whole thing. They want 1 tablespoon. And then they want you to like fill the roasting pan with onions, but it literally says in the instructions, don't worry about seasoning. The drippings from the turkey will season it.
Now,
so you want this 1 tablespoon to fucking carry the turkey and all the onions in the roasting pan? What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Somebody blocked you over that?
Yeah, she said I was being a nasty know-it-all, which I was. And so maybe I know it all. Did you ever think of that?
On that note.
Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.
She did say that too.
Strange things that happen here, no stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
was an Unspoiled Network podcast.